Okay. Good morning. So thanks to a connection with Amy and our speaker, we are able to have Jennifer Ashley from Univest here today. So Jennifer is the Plan Giving Officer for Univest Foundation. Jennifer has more than 25 years of experience in the nonprofit industry. She is responsible for assisting individuals achieve philanthropic goals and guiding nonprofits in sustaining their missions through gift planning initiatives. She earned her BA from Ursinus College, right down the street in Collegeville, and a JD from Widener University School of Law. She has the CAP designation from the American College of Financial Services. Jennifer is active with volunteer work at Living Streams Ranch, the Seeing Eye, the Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival, and her church. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Jennifer Ashley.
Thank you so much, Nicole, and thank you all for being here today and having me. As my introduction kind of said, I love talking about gift planning. It's one of the things, and today we're going to talk about gift planning that will still work for a little bit, what's left of 2022, and some things you might want to be mindful of coming in, or maybe coming to play in 2023. And here we go. Nope. That one worked. Okay, awesome. So just a little bit about Univest Foundation. I know Nicole said it, but we're committed to bringing charities and donors together through planned giving. It's what we do. I do a lot of work with wealth advisors, helping individuals figure out how they want to give gifts. I also work with a lot of nonprofits, helping beef up their planned giving program. And that's really our goal, for your organizations, is to help you figure out what's the best way to do a planned giving program for you where you're at today. The foundation, I do have to put this caveat on, the foundation was started by Univest Financial Corporation in 2002. We are a separate, here comes the boring legalese, we are a separate 501c3 that's non-affiliated with Univest. Just saying that, have to put that out there. Though my office is in Souderton, I basically go anywhere that Univest's footprint is. I know I just said I was separate from Univest, but I go anywhere their footprint is, which includes Lancaster, Montgomery, Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Pittsburgh, Maryland. Anywhere that Univest is, that's where I go. Yes, so today I want to talk about, I should probably tell you what Univest Foundation, really what I do. We are a donor advised fund sponsor. That's one of the things that we do. We also hold charitable gift annuities for nonprofits. We also manage charitable gift annuity pooled funds. We do education. We just had a seminar at the end of September. And again, I said I partner with a lot of wealth advisors helping their clients. And that's kind of what I do. It seems like a lot, but we are a really large shop. We're a one-woman shop. You're looking at her. So we do a lot with one person going forward. But today I want to focus on the gifts and what you can be looking for as you talk to donors this year and beyond. Some gifts for 2022 that might still work if you're out there reaching people, or cash and real estate and funds from donor advised funds and securities and QCDs. And some planned gifts that might still work for 2022 because they don't take that long to set up would be charitable gift annuities, charitable remainder trusts, charitable lead trusts, bequests, which are really easy, and pooled income gifts funds. And remember, as we talk about this, that a planned gift can always be paired with a current gift. So if I talk about these as you're thinking of donors, think of donors who might be able to do both this year for that double win for you.
I just want to say to everybody, I have the slides. They're going to go on our website under the member section. So just an FYI, so you don't have to take pictures or anything. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I could also send it to. So the first gift I want to talk about is cash. I don't know if I need to say more about that as a current gift. It's usually the easiest for you to process. Sometimes it's easier for the donor to give, but it might not be the best for the donor to give. Just think about that. Next, I want to think about real estate. People know that real estate prices have soared in so many areas around here, and things are really going great, and people are going, wow, I can make a big gift. Usually real estate is literally your donor's biggest physically biggest asset. But you have to be careful with real estate, because that person who says, I have this house on acres of farmland, it could be something like this. Looks to me like this was from downtown Williamsburg, or it could be something like this. I really, yeah, you never know. And I've had some interesting starter conversations with donors that have ended more on this note. Approach real estate carefully. Just looking at it, you know, always have your gift acceptance policy handy, and you're going to hear me say that a few times today. And never hesitate to consider using a third party. When someone says, I have real estate, don't hesitate to think, maybe I should have someone else assess this besides me. Because I know our first gift of real estate at Univest Foundation, I actually had to go walk the property and assess it for environmental issues. I'm not qualified. You heard my bio. I am not qualified to do that. So a third party can be very, very helpful. Another quick and easy gift for you are funds from donor advised funds. So for you, that's going to come like cash. But as you're talking to donors, especially donors who are sad about the stock market, this money that they have sitting in their donor advised funds, they've already given it away. It's not going to affect their income. It's not going to affect their taxes for this year. And they can give it, no tax consequences for them, but it's a big gift for you. These are wonderful gifts, and I know as a donor advised fund sponsor, I am constantly reminding my clients that this money has already left their wallet, that all they have to do is tell me where to write the check, and it goes. Securities and stocks. Believe it or not, there are stocks that have gone up this year. A lot of energy stocks, which people had or maybe had a few shares of, they have grown and they may have become appreciated, so donors might be wanting to give this away. Other stocks might not have appreciated this year, but you're not looking at how much they've necessarily appreciated this year. You're looking at how long they've appreciated since your donors had them. So I recently talked to somebody whose husband died this year, and he had about $500,000 worth of Univest stock. So when he died, she had the benefit of that stock. The value went up to the date of his death. So she didn't have to worry about the capital gains on that. However, she's looking for somewhere to give the other $500,000 of stock that she's accumulated, all Univest, that she's accumulated over the year. Right now our value is at about $28. She bought some of that stock at $5. She's got some huge capital gains she's looking at. So myself and her wealth advisor are working together to figure out what's the best route for that stock. I can tell you, last we talked, it was a donor advised fund, so it can go out to her favorite charities, but that could be different as we continue to talk. Again, it's not how much the stock has gone up this year, it's how much it's gone up since your donor had it. I'm gonna put a caveat here: if you can't receive stocks from your organization, talk to me, we might be able to figure out a workaround with that. Another great thing, and you still have time this year for this, is QCDs, or qualified charitable distributions. Sometimes they're called IRA rollovers because the funds roll right from the IRA to you. I'm not particularly fond of that name, but I didn't make it up. So for donors who are age 75 and a half, they can do this with their IRAs. All they have to do is tell their IRA sponsor to send the check to you, and the check goes to you. This is great for your donors because they don't receive the income from their RMD, the requirement minimum distribution. And these gifts have to go directly to a charity like yours. It can't go to a donor advised fund. It can't go to a charitable gift annuity. And it can't go to a complicated kind of trust. And they can do it for up to $100,000. One thing I do want to put a note on, I did talk to a nonprofit last year that got stuck with this issue. That QCD check has to be in your office by December 31st. It can't be in the mail. It can't be somewhere floating over the wires. It must be in your office for them to qualify. Just putting that on so your donors aren't burnt like my poor donor last year.
Yeah, because that's different from like if they were to write it from their personal
Bank,
check.
exactly.
Yeah.
Then it's the
like,
postmark.
You know, yeah, we get the postmark, then we can post it for that. But and sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I go like maybe the first week in January, like that for the end of the year gift, but you know, because they still have December 31st. And then after that, forget it. But QCDs, yeah.
QCDs are the exception to that rule. Thank you. Yeah, it's I just don't want anyone to get stuck on that. Moving on to planned gifts, I want to start with this one, pooled income funds. Does anyone have a pooled income fund at their agency? Okay. This has been a banner year to restart them. For the rest of you, I wouldn't suggest starting them because we never know what's going to happen. But because of these gifts, the way the interest rates and everything have worked, it's a great year to have people feed back into them. So many agencies have let these die. And what they are is essentially, it's a group of people who put assets together and they get a percentage of those assets based on what they put in. So if you have a $10,000 pool, someone put $1,000 in, they're gonna get about 10% of the interest out of it. They're also kind of complicated to run. I don't know if you're involved in running it, but they're very complicated to run, which is why I say, I don't know if I'd start one, but if you have one, it's something you can encourage your donors to give this year because it's still working well for them. Who knows what's gonna happen next year. Bequests, always easy, right? A donor just put something in their will. It's simple, they can do this at any time. The problem is you might not always know. I do encourage donors to tell you, but you know, I'm one person working in this. This is a great way for donors to give who don't feel secure that they have enough money to support themselves for the rest of their lives, but they think they might. So they can leave you money after their death, and they can leave a percentage or a certain amount. We usually consider a percentage because people don't always know what they're worth, and we find percentages are better for you in the long run. So charitable gift annuities, I know some of you have charitable gift annuity pools, but this works. It's a contract that is irrevocable between a donor and a nonprofit. Starting it is simple. It really is just a 2-page document so a donor can feel comfortable that because this could easily be done by the end of the year. So from this, the charity agrees to make payments for the donor for life. You're not coming up with these payments. They're all calculated out by an outside organization. We use the American Council on Charitable Gift Annuities. And the payment is based on their ages. It's the age of the donors when they're gonna start receiving payments. So that might not be their age today. Payments are the same for the rest of their life. That's why a lot of donors like this. They love the security of these. They're always gonna get the same exact thing. And at the end of the contract, your organization receives the fund. Hopefully there's some left, right?
They all live to be over 100, so.
Yes, and I generally say that if none of you are worth a specific healthcare agency, but if you are, yeah, they live the longest. Just saying, from my experience. These are great because the income that comes in is not entirely taxable. Some of it is tax-free. Again, another reason donors like these. It's always a good option for a donor who says, I'm not too sure, I think I might need a little income. It's a safe option. The one thing about these I just want to note is that it does take a contract, usually generated by software, and your organization, if you're writing this contract, your organization is guaranteeing that they'll be able to pay them. The reason I put these in what's great for 2022 is the rates for charitable gift annuities changed as of July of 2022, making it a better option for donors. The rates increased about 0.5%, so your donors are getting a little bit more than they would have before July. What we base the payments on in the tax-free portion, the AFR, the applicable federal rate, that has been skyrocketing. It's basically quadrupled this calendar year. So this is making charitable gift annuities a great option for donors, and they weren't really a good option the past couple years. Might not have encouraged them too much the past couple years. But it is great, as you can see, for our donors. These donors are 80 and 78. They're getting an annuity of about $1,500, just a little bit less than, and that provides them some security. I know most of my donors who have these, they don't keep that funds. They either give it back to the organization or they give it back to their kids. They use it to give money to their kids. But some of them like the idea of having that little bit of income. And if you have donors, I can definitely do more specifics on these rates. Something related to charitable gift annuities is our charitable remainder trust. These require a little bit more. A charitable gift annuity, we can start with as little as $10,000. Charitable remainder trust, we generally recommend not less than $500,000. So again, it's a bump up. Benefit of charitable remainder trust is you can start these with illiquid assets potentially, depending how it's set up. Completely removes your asset from your estate, which might be better. Hang on to that for reasons why that. Charitable remainder trusts pay the individual for a while, and then the money will go to the charity. The payments last for a set number of years or the person's life, depending. And then the money goes back to the charity. This is great because you can do a term of years with these. It's not like a charitable gift annuity, which is for life. So if a donor says, I just want to do these for 20 year, you can do that. They can also set a distant time. When all my grandkids are out of college, I'll stop. So they're a little bit more flexible. Problem with them is it doesn't require an attorney to set up a trust. Most attorneys know how to do these. They're fairly simple documents, so you could still do one by the end of the year. The trusts themselves are irrevocable. However, the charity that benefits at the end may be changed. Just thought you guys want to know that. And the income from the trust, just like the charitable gift annuities, it is partially taxable. Something for your donors to consider when they're looking at this. If I had been writing this presentation and giving it to you 6 months ago, I would have said this is the way to go for your large donors. It's not anymore. That changed. But it's still a good option for this year. Charitable lead trust. So charitable leads trust, an asset is placed in the trust. The assets are used to earn income, and the income first goes to a charity. A little bit different than the remainder trust. So this means you're going to get paid first for a term of years until something happens. And then the remaining passes to the donor or their family. Usually it's their family. These are complicated to set up. They do cost a little bit more in attorney's fees to set up. We generally say that they're not good for gifts of like almost $1 million as well, because you're gonna want that money to be left over for the kids. But if somebody has a lot of money, we see these a lot when people are selling businesses. It's a good way to generate income for your charity now and help their family at a later time. These can be really creative, so you can put things in there like real estate, business assets that are sold later, and so the trust can start at a later time. It can start when the assets are sold. Just something to think about. Again, the trust is irrevocable once it's set up, and because the nonprofit gets the money immediately, you can change the nonprofit that gets the money, but it's a little harder because you're already telling them, it's like taking candy away from a kid at Halloween once you've given it to them. So most people don't change it, but you can change the charity. So I want to talk about 2023, because I know you're all wrapped up and you're ready to go for 2022. You have all your campaigns done. You've met your goals, right? You don't care about the end of the year. I'm sure you do care a little bit. But there are some changes coming for 2023 that you might want to be aware of as you're thinking of campaigns, as you're looking ahead. My disclaimer with this is I really have no clue about the future. A lot of this is up to Congress, and if you can tell me what they're going to do, you should be in this job, and I don't know why you're sitting listening to me. But there are a couple things I'm watching. It's called the Secure Act 2.0. is what they're calling it, and that was merged with something that was earlier this year called the EARN Act. They've kind of put them together into one proposal now, but neither have passed, and they're both sitting there in Congress. I'm watching the ACE Act as well. I'm not watching that real closely because most people say there's no hope for that passing in 2022, but you never know. Depends how the elections go next week, right? You should have had me come like in 2 weeks so we would know, but we just don't know. And there's also been some slight changes to the tax rules that your donors might want to know about for 2023 and might affect how they give. I don't know how much it will affect, but these rules will definitely take a place. So cash. It looks like cash will remain a good option, but there may be better. One thing to note with cash is our tax brackets are changing. So they're going up a little bit. So to remain in that 22%, it's a higher threshold. Last year, we saw a lot of people giving to bring themselves back into that lower threshold of a tax bracket. So think of that when you're talking to donors. They might not want to do that. Another thing that changed for 2023 is the amount you can give to an individual without reporting it to the IRS. That bumped up another $1,000. So for your donors who you know are giving to kids, grandkids, etc., that's going to be a higher threshold, something they just might be thinking about.
Is that a set amount?
It's 17,000, so it's going from 16 to 17, which is minor, but it might affect your donors as those who are generous to their kids and grandkids. There are both House and Senate bills. They're not the same bill, but they're close enough that there's a chance they might pass sometime in the near future, that is going to reinstate the ability for people to itemize even if they normally wouldn't itemize. So remember, after with the Secure Act, we got the $600 for a married couple that they could itemize even if they normally couldn't. There are bills that are suggesting that amount be bumped up anywhere to keep it at the $600 to move it to a $5,000. If that passes, this could be a great boon for your smaller donors who are giving regular amounts of cash. It would give them that ability to itemize. But I'm going to say that if is a really big if from what I've been told. And a note for cash, I'm going to lump donor advised funds in the cash this year for 2023 and beyond. There is also legislation bumping around Congress that could change how donor advised funds are dispersed. This one's been out there for a while. It's because of the criticism that donor advised funds aren't dispersing funds. I'm gonna say immediately we don't see that at Univest Foundation, but some of the larger national donor advised funds do see that. It's gonna require disbursements within 15 years. As I just said, that those larger agencies that don't see disbursements are fighting this really hard, because if you think of that, we'd have to calculate, all right, this gift came in today, it has to be dispersed in 15 years, but what about that gift that they gave 2 years from now? You're gonna have to keep calculating it. The amount of red tape that's gonna cause for donor advised fund sponsors is gonna keep those bigger agencies fighting it. And it's only gonna apply to large donor advised funds, but it's something to note as people are thinking about donor advised funds or thinking about how they may be dispersed. This is also going to apply to family foundations. If you get any gifts from family foundations, this legislation, if passed, would apply to family foundations as well. I wasn't sure.
Name for that legislation or a number?
It's part of the ACE Act, and because I didn't write the numbers down because it's got different numbers in the Senate and the House. And my thought that if it passes, it won't pass as that. It will be tagged into maybe the Secure Act or some other tax legislation. So it might lose its name. I don't know. This is what I've heard. And when I say what I've heard, I rely a lot on the National Association of Charitable Gift Planners for my information, a little bit on the Council of Charitable Gift Annuities, a little bit on AFP. So that's where I get my sources and what I've seen in the past as well. I didn't know where to put the next thing I'm going to talk about, so I'm throwing it in with the cash. A trend to consider with any, especially cash gift or large gift in the future, is 31% of donors polled by the Bank of America and the National Philanthropic Institute says that they are very interested in social impact funding and where their money, oh yeah, I heard a groan, and where their money is going. So someone who's looking to give to your endowment, your capital campaign, if you invest for the long term, your benevolent fund, those kind of things, they might be asking about how that money is invested. We've seen this trend not so much with our older donors, but what I'm going to consider your young donors, your donors 50 and younger, who might be the children of some of your residents. They're really starting to question this and wondering where it's going and how it's invested. Something to think about. You might want to know that. Again, demographics vary wildly on who is interested in this and how they're interested. So just think about it. As I said, I could spend hours talking about social impact investing, but I'm not going to save you all. So let's move on. Real estate. Back to that one, right? Mortgage rates have skyrocketed recently. And so people might be thinking that they're not going to sell this home, that they're going to give it away, especially with a second home. The cost of maintaining a home have skyrocketed. So they might not want to keep this. They might say, hey, let's give this away. We've got incredible capital gains, especially in the vacation homes. Let's see what we can do with this. It could be a great gift to go into a charitable remainder trust in the future. It could be a great gift if the home is worth enough into a charitable lead trust. Some interesting ways to do it. I'm going to tell you that, very important, again, get a second opinion, get someone else appraising this, because property prices are still relatively high. What happens if they give the home in January and the market bottoms out in June? I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm thinking this will be a bigger gift. I'm already having people approach and say, can I take this in a donor advised fund? I am not sure about that, but we actually would probably use a third party for a lot of the real estate. So securities and stocks, hopefully they're going to go up. Didn't mean to click that. Sorry. Securities and stocks, hopefully they're going to go up next year. I have no clue. But beyond the Secure Act 2.0, it was originally lumped in there, but now there's changes. For securities, remember I went back to that donor who gave the money because their Univest stock had appreciated so much, and the difference with their husband. There's now talk about changing how that's calculated, how you can take the appreciation and what the capital gains will be valued at. So if this legislation passes, when her husband died, she would have had to pay the capital gains on the original price. There's a lot of people fighting this because they don't like that. It's also harder to calculate. But there are potential chatters on how it's calculated. There's also chatter related to that on changing how stocks are calculated, the value when they're given, straight out given. Don't worry about an estate when they're straight out given to you. Again, I don't know if this is going to pass, but something to be thinking about. Another thing I didn't know where to lump in, but I wanted to mention it is, and it's related because it could be interests, business interests in small businesses. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that are getting up to that retirement age now. And if you own a small business, estimates are 70 to 80% of your assets are tied somehow to that small business, which means when that small business sells, that's your donor's biggest gift ever to you. And thinking about how to do this, what would be the best way for them to make that gift is it's beyond my expertise, probably beyond your expertise. And what I always say, if you have a donor who mentioned, yeah, thinking of getting out of my business, maybe I could give you something when that sells. My advice is bring in a team around them. Ask them if they're talking to their accountant. Are they talking to their attorney? Are they talking to their wealth advisor? Because that's going to make a big difference in what happens with the gift if someone is looking to give from a small business. I can give you 2 quick stories about this. We had a donor approach us recently. He came to our wealth advisor after selling $1 million of his business. He had a share in it, so he sold it. What happened was he had wealth advisors. He had kind of mentioned to them that he was thinking of doing this. He had a charity, and the charity was like, yeah, oh, we'll take part of that gift when it's ready. Yeah, sure. You can use that for a capital campaign. He sold the business and didn't say until after. Then he comes to our wealth advisor. Our wealth advisor comes to me and says, hey, he's going to get hit with taxes. What do I do? And I said, talk to him 2 years ago. We are working with him. We're going to mitigate some of the taxes, but he's going to get hit really hard with taxes this year. And it's a shame because he had that team around him beforehand. He could have made a bigger gift and not paid as much to the IRS. Contrasting that is we have somebody talking to another wealth advisor right now who wants to sell his interest in a rental property. He's thinking of doing this mid next year. He wants to give a huge gift of about $500,000 to his favorite charity, but he wants to maintain some income that he's going to lose by selling this rental property. We've pulled the team around him. We've pulled his accountant into this. We're pulling his attorney into this. We actually pulled his partner into this as well to see how the partner is going to want to receive or what the partner wants to do. Important with that is we're not letting the partner put anything down in writing. Just so you know, if you're going to sell a business, don't put it in writing before you give it away. But we're working with the team, and this guy's going to do a lot better. He's going to pay a whole lot less in taxes than the other gentleman. Same gift, and the nonprofit we're thinking is going to see a lot bigger gift from this. just something to say, and thinking about it as you're talking to donors. Don't be afraid to bring that team in, because it really is what's best for your donors. Another thing that might be interested in 2023 is personal property. Crystal ball's kind of foggy on these because you never know where it's going to go, especially the cryptocurrency one. I know you're asking questions about this later, but how many of you have a gift acceptance policy that includes cryptocurrency? All right. So how many of you have a gift acceptance policy that would kind of talk about herd of cattle? Antique car, fancy sports car. These are things we're looking at because as people want to get things out of their estate, they might be looking at giving away some of these, because the herd of cattle might not include the land. So it might not be a real estate gift. It might just be a gift of cattle, literal cattle. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because in 2026, the amount of an estate that won't be taxed is going to dwindle down to half. So right now it's hanging at the $12 million mark. As of 2026, if there's no changes, that's going to dip to just about 6.8 million. People with smaller estates are now potentially looking at a tax on those estates, and they might be trying to get assets out of their estate ahead of time. That could change. As I said, it's not till 2026, so I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know a lot of attorneys who are starting to talk to people about minimizing their estates. Again, thinking about it and getting the attorney involved is a good thing. And having a great gift acceptance policy might serve you well.
Do you process property when somebody wants to set up something with the sale of the property?
So if someone was looking at a charitable remainder trust or a charitable gift annuity, something that Univest handles, depending on what it is, we would either process it or go to a third party. Right now, the Univest does not like the idea of crypto, so we're using a third party. And depending where and what the real estate is, we would use a third party. We've processed a few like local townhomes in our area. We can do that. However, if you're talking about your ski home in Nevada, we're not going to do that. We're going to work with a third party. So it really depends. Yeah, sorry, I didn't have a straight answer on that. So QCDs. There is new legislation out there. These, I think, are still going to be a good gift in the future, but there's new legislation that would increase the age when RMDs may be taken. So as people are going up, though, they can still give that QCD at 70 and a half. They might not have to take money out, and the ages bump, I think it's high 76. So something to think about with that, and this is all part of the Secure Act. There's also provisions that allows people to increase the amounts that they're giving into their IRAs or retirement vehicles. Some of you, as my bio said, I've been involved in nonprofits for 25 years, haven't been able to give a whole lot into retirement accounts. This would allow people like us and me to be able to give more every year. And you're thinking, oh no, we're not going to be able to get gifts. However, those of us who can now start giving those gifts and have something set aside for retirement might feel more comfortable that we will have enough to care for ourselves for life. And so a few years down the road, these might make great gifts because they'll be comfortable with how much they're getting and how much is in their retirement plans. Again, it might not pass. I haven't heard of the stretch provision going away, and the stretch was saying if your money's not going to a spouse or a minor child, that they have to get rid of it within 10 years. I haven't heard of that going away. So those gifts, IRAs, might make a great estate gift because you can make a nonprofit the beneficiary and you don't have to worry about the stretch because the nonprofit doesn't have to pay taxes on it. Real simple, real easy. So if that stays, that's a great way to encourage you becoming the ultimate beneficiary of an IRA. New thing that's coming out that of course I'm excited about, you might not get as excited, is that it's allowing people to make one-time gifts into a CGA or a CRT or any split interest gifts from their IRA as part of their RMD. It would be a one-time gift. Right now the limit is at 50,000, which eliminates CRTs because that's not enough to start a CRT. But it could make a great time for people to start a CGA, which is why I'm excited about it. Again, we don't know if this is going to pass. All of this is, well, if it does, but if it does, this is a great time to encourage both the RMD, because they can give the rest of that 100,000 as a regular QCD, and then put 50,000 into a CGA if they're uncomfortable about giving the whole thing.
So 100 plus the 50, or the 50 is part of the 100?
It will add up to 100.
Okay.
But then there's a caveat in there that it might grow because of inflation. Yeah, I'm not going into inflation mechanics here now. That's way beyond my math skills. But all of these things have that caveat that these, I guess, minimums will increase for inflation.
So then they would get the tax deduction from the CGA as well as not having to claim the income off of the QCD.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, it's a great little tool. There are people who want to see that 50,000 bumped up to make it closer to 100, so a CRT could be. No idea. Right now, the legislation as is that the charitable gift planning, the National Institute of Charitable Gift Planners says will probably pass once the elections take place by the end of 2022. They're almost certain. With me and Congress, nothing is certain, so I don't know.
Is this part of the Secure Act too, or?
It's part of the Secure Act 2.0, yeah. And it's as written, so we'll see. I have no idea, really. Again, it's the future. We really have no idea. But things to watch out for and things your donors might be hearing, because if these pass, your donors are going to start hearing about them and people are going to start talking about them. Might be good to do something in January and be looking up these bills and see what really happened. So that's all I really had for what's going on. There might be more coming. There's some other taxes that regard to small business and the social impact funds. But again, they would be day-long sessions on their own. So right now I'm gonna stop, and if you guys have any questions or any comments.
I have a question, and I don't know if you can answer this, but some years ago, Greg brought up her colleague who retired about when people leave you money from their retirement account, their IRA, having struggles with the financial services companies that hold the money, getting it. And I've had this happen to me now. I've had a donor that left us some money, and it's not a huge amount, but it's enough to be good, obviously. But this retirement fund notified us in February. They've been putting us through the mill, wanting they wanted proof that our CEO could sign the papers, that there was a board authorization that she could sign the papers. So we got them that twice in 2 different forms, and now it's November, and there's just delay, and I don't know if that I have 2 questions. Does that money freeze when the person dies, or like could they be playing with that money and then it ends up not, because the market's going down, is the value of it decreasing? That's one question. But how do we get, is there any way to
I see Ryan Jones going like this.
Are you talking about Fidelity? Well, so my short answer.
Well, this is since February.
Since February. We had one of those and just got it and it ended up being $200. It was such a waste of time.
Well, I'm afraid that they've been futzing with this, and maybe does it freeze when the person passes?
Does the value? So it's probably still invested.
Yeah.
My guess is I'm not sure what that company does, but it's probably still invested. They might have moved it into a money market once you started talking to them. Chances are it's still invested, so the value could have fluctuated a little bit. The other issue, and trust me, this is a national, this isn't local, this is national issue. Best way to do this, what we've heard, is to get your corporate attorney to write to them and say, hey, this is our money, let it go. Because they should not require your CEO's, some agencies require your CEO's social security number.
Firstborn child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pretty much, copies of their driver's license, proof of citizenship. You're a nonprofit. They can require your IRS letter.
They've already gotten everything.
I'm sure, yeah. And they're slow, but usually it's a letter from your attorney that does it. There's actually a push, again, the National Association of Charitable Gift Planners, that we're pushing to get a statement and therefore legislation saying once the nonprofit has been identified and has proven that they are a valid nonprofit, that the money must be released.
So is there legislation?
Not yet, no. We're still,
So the corporate attorney would be
your corporate attorney is really your best bet at this point, because there's nothing you can grab onto besides saying, there's a will. It says it's our money. Why are you holding on to it? It's not your money anymore. Yeah, it's hard, and I don't know if it makes you feel any better that you're.
Is it by will or is it by?
No, we were we're not the sole beneficiary, but we're a beneficiary of.
So you have that signed document, right, that says you're the beneficiary? Yeah, I mean, it's yours. It's like you were a child, it's yours.
They're just holding it hostage.
Right, and from the bank side, we do have to do a certain amount of due diligence to make sure you are not a terrorist.
We did all that.
I know, but it's
We
not.
did everything possible.
It's not that involved.
Yeah.
I mean, like when
Since
I'm
February.
when I'm opening an account, like if I have to open an account for a nonprofit, I can have that verification all done within a couple days. It's not a month
Well,
long
they
process.
basically asked for the same thing twice, different ways.
Yeah, they're big. It got lost.
Yeah.
Is it one of those things, like you said, you're one of multiple beneficiaries, so if you're one of multiple, do they have to make sure everybody's been verified before it goes
Mhm.
out?
Just
I
you.
think the only other beneficiary is the person's son, and we didn't get, he got
Yeah,
more than
majority.
we did, but, and the son's already gotten his money.
No.
Yeah.
He had an attorney.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, either that or it funneled. His money could have funneled to an account at the same institution, which they're very happy to do and do it very quickly. So if you had an account at this institution and said, "Can you just put the money in there?" They might have it might have been done. But they can't make you open an account at their institution.
That's the other thing I've heard, like Greg
Yeah.
said that they had that with
Oh, that's
something.
not, we had that, yeah, we had to,
Yeah.
we had to open an account to get it, to get the money.
Sometimes it's the simplest, but you don't have to.
But then you can close it, right?
We were told we had to, we were told the only way to get it was to open the
Yeah.
account. And then you can close it and take it, but you have to open the account, so then it's a whole other, yeah,
Yeah, and then they have to ask for 1,000 pages of documentations for you to open an account.
yeah.
Yeah.
Months.
Months.
During 2022, it was like, oh, COVID, it'll be 6 to 8 months,
Oh, yeah.
9 months. So any excuse they can use to keep the funds. I've also run into a situation where I had the financial advisor of the deceased. They were, very nice.
Mhm.
Here's all the paperwork you need to fill out, and then later you find out the financial advisor messed up when he was submitting forms to the institution. So now I find it a lot better just to say, who's your contact at the institution, so I can follow up with them instead of going to the financial advisor who's contacting the institution. Very, very well-meaning people, but sometimes they.
Yeah,
they mess up.
I always go the route of have your corporate attorney
Yeah.
send a very strong letter. It can be short and sweet, but it needs to have some oomph to it. Yes.
Yeah, we're going through one right now with you guys in your trust department. Somebody used to work, he was a banker, he worked for a bank, and he had his own little account he set up, but he didn't go through a stockbroker. We were having a heck of a time getting this guy's money. He set up the account with Univest now.
Mhm.
Did it all, this has been going on for 5 or 6 months. It's like, what the heck? But that was a separate thing because he had his own little account to go through a broker.
Right, so it probably had to be transferred.
I don't know, but it's the same paperwork thing or everything.
Yeah, we can talk separately. I would twist whoever's arm that is and. Like you're that close.
Jennifer might be able to just take it.
Yeah, I don't have that power, but I could say, yeah. I know what my problem is I know what legislation they are reading and saying we have to do all of this and we have to get all of this in a row. And I know what compliance is saying to them, if you don't do this right, you're in big trouble. So they're trying to make sure everything's perfect. But in the reality is, the compliance is, you're just like any other beneficiary. Yeah. You're an entity, it's a difference between a person and a nonprofit, but you're still an entity that should be able to get the funds. And you're honoring the person's wishes.
But I do believe the money is frozen. I don't believe that they can still put it in the market. That's
They can move it to a money market, and some of them, depending on what they're doing and how many beneficiaries, they've been known to keep it invested. No, I didn't say that was the right. They've been known to keep it invested. Yeah, which could be a boon for you. In some markets, it could be a boon for you, but
yeah.
a lot of
in my situation, it was frozen because that's
Yeah.
all we cared about was
Yeah.
especially the market.
Mhm.
6 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. And you can ask that it be moved, and hopefully they'll move or take it out of the investments.
Yeah.
And it should be, but I don't know if you, because they're not recognizing you, getting that verification is going to be fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Just, Jennifer's not, she's gracefully not selling herself and her services, but if you don't do charitable gift annuities because you don't want to manage them, we don't want to manage them, they can manage your charitable gift annuities, and, you know, help you with a resident client, whoever, that would want to do a charitable gift annuity that would benefit your organization, and they do all the management for it. And it's a $10,000 minimum?
We have a $10,000 minimum and age 70 for immediate payments. If they're younger, we can do a deferred. But we require being at least 70 and $10,000. Yes. I can talk to anyone about that later, but yeah, and especially if you're doing one-off, sometimes using an agency like Univest Foundation is a great option because you don't want to worry about managing one.
So I don't know if I told you all, when I was at Messiah Lifeways and I had, you know, all of a sudden inherited, I think there was like, what did I tell you, like 30 charitable gift annuities that they had done over the years. They did one, a $10,000 one for a 14-year-old.
Ah!
Yeah. So she's 44 now, and she's still gonna get paid her X number of dollars for the rest, yep. And I was like, there's no words. There's like, so yes, the 70-year-old is what, you know, you wanna do now, not 14, so just an FYI.
And if you don't want to manage it, or your organization doesn't want to manage it, they
We wouldn't touch that one.
Yeah. I don't even, well, it was in-house. They did them in-house. These were all,
Right.
30 of them they
And
had
was
done.
it deferred?
No. They've been paid, so it made literally no sense. It was, apparently the grandparents had lived there from what I found out, and I guess they opened, I don't know, they had a development director, and then the development director hired this like gift officer who did, the life insurance policies, which that was a joke and a half also, and then the charitable gift annuity. So, which ironically, the development director, I had to call him to tell him that his $100,000 life insurance policy that they thought was going to be their largest gift, we actually had to start paying, if we wanted to keep it, $9,000 a year in order to keep it. So, and the wife who was under, yeah, she was living at least another 10, 15 more years, so it wouldn't have made any sense. Oh yeah, like this, it was a hot
Right.
mess.
No, there is,
I felt so bad for them.
for a 14-year-old, there is a charitable gift annuity. You can do a college charitable gift annuity.
No, this was not. This was
Yeah, it doesn't sound like, but that's a great way if someone says, oh, I want to benefit a younger person, you can it basically pays out while they're in college, and then the money goes back to you, which is a great for a child.
Right.
Great tool. No, we went right for a 14.
14.
What was her rate? You know?
It had to be like nothing.
10%, not even.
No, because she was getting, so it was on 10,000, no, because she gets, I want to say it was like, oh gosh, I'm trying to think what she got. Was it like $100 and something? So she probably was making like, I think, $200 a year on it that she would get. Because we were thinking, I thought, well, I'll give a call to this, try to find her and see, because she's young, like I don't know who she is. Maybe she probably has no idea why she gets X number of dollars like every year, right, from the Messiah Lifeways. And so I ended up finding her ex-mother-in-law that had like the same name. And she was like, I asked if, is Susie Smith there? And she's like, do you mean Susie or Suzette? Like it was like a really weird, like different spelling of her name. And she's like, oh, no, that's my ex-daughter-in-law. I hope she's in jail. Why? What do you need? And I was like, oh my gosh, so I'm not getting this money back. Yep, that's gonna be going.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, she like, apparently Suzette, like committed fraud against the ex-mother-in-law, and oh yeah, it was like this whole, it was awesome. It was like, I could write a movie for this, yeah. 14-year-old who has a charitable gift annuity.
Wow, interesting.
Yes. Any other questions?
Any other?
So, I'll go turn that off. I don't know if it's. All right, so I guess, yes, thank you, Jennifer.
Yes.